Hello and welcome. And I'm your host, Konstantin Kogan, and we're here at Holistic Investments. And I'm excited to have an amazing guest, Jehan Chu, who's a founder and managing partner at Kenetic Capital. Hi, Jehan.
Hey, Constantine, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. We know each other for some time already. I've been listening to, your different species, reading your articles for many years. You invested in some of the companies that we both like, coming in as investors, and really, really excited. Before we proceed, traditionally I read this disclaimers that this content is for informational purposes only, and you should not construe any such information or any other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice, so that we cannot cut it out and then we can talk about anything we want. Um, you've been in this space for many years. You invested in hundreds of companies. You've seen different situations where the companies like propelled to become unicorns, and you've seen the decay of different companies as well, right? But first, I want to learn a few things about yourself, about your personal journey. Like, what actually excited you first to join the Web3 movement?
Yeah, thanks. I think my background in kind of goes a little bit further back than just the genesis of my introduction to Web3, which I think led me. So I actually had a background in as a front end developer. So back in the day, the first dot-com boom, I was a lowly coder, you know, struggling away with HTML and JavaScript, and really just at the front lines, but more like cannon fodder of the first kind of dot-com boom. And then I actually got into the art world, and that brought me to Hong Kong, and that kind of, you know, gave me a sense of the difference between corporate and non-corporate. And I left Sotheby's, the auction house, in 2008 to go on my own as an entrepreneur and start an art advisory firm. And so that was really my real taste of freedom. And really, the last paycheck that I ever received was in August of 2008. And so I've just been on my own. I think that definitely helped to inform my kind of sensitivity and appreciation for founders and really for entrepreneurship. So I ran my own companies, from 2008 until 2016, but it was 2013 when I got into Bitcoin. I've said before that I bought my first Bitcoin from Arthur Hayes on local Bitcoin. So very much like a very kind of traditional way of getting into the space. I learned about Bitcoin through reading an article about the Winklevoss twins, as we had both been on the same cap table of an art startup. And I was just really, kind of blown away by the idea of Bitcoin. I love the idea of, kind of decentralization. Nobody had really ever talked to me about that before. I wasn't so much, one of these kind of gold bugs. I wasn't really into the financial side of it. It was really the idea of a decentralized computer. And that's why I very quickly gravitated towards Ethereum, rather than being kind of particularly stuck on Bitcoin. And that's when I fell down the rabbit hole. I mean, I just dove straight into Ethereum and, kind of try to position myself at the gates of the Asian ecosystem to help build Ethereum. And luckily that at that time, that was like a good move. And it educated me so much about the culture, the kind of the different types of theses, some of the earliest, I guess, projects that have led to other projects. So for example, Uport, the first identity protocol, led me to later on invest in Worldcoin, which maybe we can talk about later.
Mhm.
So a lot of very early lessons ended up blossoming, even 5, 10 years later. So I've been super fortunate to get into the space that way.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I know that you have very, very interesting portfolio, right? It's ranging from mining companies and like NFT companies, like you invested in Yuga Labs, you invested in Bitmain, you invested in gaming companies, and like really probably like one of the most diversified portfolio that I've seen so far in hedge funds. So maybe you can tell us openly, like you've mentioned that you were a front-end developer, and obviously Sotheby's gave you, I'm sure, a very good understanding of the arts arena and scene. So you understand the tech, you understand the art space, like, but what are your core focuses right now? Like, what are you looking at and what you're excited about?
Kenetic actually is not a hedge fund or a VC fund as we've kind of known to be across the years. We're actually a family office. What that means is we don't have any outside capital, so we just invest our own money. Every investment we make is us putting our money where our mouth is. with full conviction and full belief. That makes things a lot simpler for us. And I think, if you ask a lot of VCs, their aspiration is to become a family office. There's a lot of friction which comes with managing other people's money and kind of headaches and reporting, et cetera. On the flip side, usually being a VC fund means you're a lot more disciplined and structured, and I think that's one of the benefits. So we have had the benefit of really just kind of investing, where our heart leads us, which is fun, to be honest, because we don't have a thesis. I like to joke that our thesis, our investment thesis, is hyperlateralism, which simply means that we can pretty much invest in everything because our core thesis is that everything leads back onto the blockchain. So whether it's identity or security or AI or gaming or NFTs, the common thread that underlies all of them and underpins all of them is the blockchain itself, and the interrelationship of all these different types of applications, data, and assets, talking to each other. I mean, that's actually the beauty of Web3. That's the promise of the whole space. With that in mind, I would say that we have probably started to focus a little bit more. Right now, our main areas of focus are TON, where I'm very famously a TON maxi. I love the TON ecosystem. I love the idea of a blockchain that really starts with an incredibly powerful distribution mechanism, where everybody's already there, and you don't necessarily need to struggle to find people, you just need to convert them. I think that's a very, very unique and rare proposition in all of the history of Web3. And that's why TON is probably one of our central investment theses and ecosystems for, definitely for the last year and probably for the next coming years. We're also very focused, for similar reasons, on the world ecosystem, formerly called Worldcoin. Again, this is the identity protocol that was founded by Alex Blania and OpenIA's Sam Altman. That has a really fascinating kind of story behind it in terms of, wanting to start with a coin which its core utility was actually adoption first, adoption and then utility, as opposed to the typical, hey, let's create some utility and try to drive adoption. We went to the San Francisco conference, saw Sam Altman, had dinner with him, and it was just breathtaking. The kind of professionalism, the polish, the pedigree of everybody on stage and the whole project. So that was really exciting. And I think that we came away from it understanding that we actually need to really double and triple down on the whole world ecosystem, because its value proposition is in many ways similar to TON, although it's an animal of different stripes. And then finally, we're really focused on one of our gaming portfolio companies called Mythical Games. Mythical, again, we think is incredible fundamentals, and has some of the top IP in the space, including NFL rivals and some upcoming sports associations that are even larger. So I would say that our thesis, in a way, has started to crystallize around really fundamental offerings that combine things like large distribution, real users, verified users, and fundamentally useful or fundamentally utility-driven types of platforms. I think we're just going back to the basics.
Yeah, that's actually, you've answered like two of the other questions which I wanted to ask you. How do you prioritize the criteria and evaluating projects, right? So but let's model the situation, right? So somebody wants to pitch you a project, and let's imagine they already have some distribution network, they have a product market fit, they have a pitch deck, they have maybe some of the traction already, that you might be interested in. So what would be the best way to pitch to Kenetic?
I would say that it's not so common for us to kind of be pitched off the street, and have that end up in our portfolio. It's just very rare. I think that, for better or for worse, early stage investing tends to be a bit of a network or social type of experience. Most of the projects that we end up investing in are introduced to us by a qualified party, meaning a VC that we also invest with, one of our portfolio companies who's recommending another founder that they know, or maybe a founder who's spinning out of one of our, one of the companies we know, or it's really this kind of relationship driven type of filtration. And I think especially in crypto, it's really, really important because there's so much noise. There are legit so many scammers. There are people that don't know that they're scammers. They're just, not that, kind of qualified to be doing what they're trying to do. And in order to filter out all of that noise, I think that this kind of, relationship membrane is extremely important. So if I were a founder and I wanted to reach someone, like me or somebody even higher, I would really work on my relationships. And I think that more than anything else is such a strong kind of determinant of success. And those relationships can be, mutual parties. It could be, school associations. It could be other types of, professional alumni associations. Anything which creates that, warm and slightly more trusted introduction and qualified introduction, I think is worth more than, many other types of, kind of strategies for quote unquote pitching. I mean, even like pitch decks, like people really focus on pitch decks. To be honest, I obviously read the pitch deck, but I don't focus on the pitch deck because I think pitch decks are relatively commodified. If it's a terrible pitch deck, then that's an automatic disqualifier, because if you don't even know how to, kind of get a basic pitch deck together, if you don't know how to structure your offering, your argument, if you're not clear on what your value proposition is and why that's important, that kind of context and just experience to understand what you're coming into, that's bad. That's a strike. But otherwise, it really is about, understanding relationships, how to navigate relationships, and why relationships are actually important, at least in terms of fundraising. I will say that there are some types of companies which, founders who maybe don't need that because either they're already, they're serial founders and they're already very qualified. They come from, kind of well recognized or well acknowledged kind of companies, or maybe you just have so much traction that you come in the door and you're saying, well, we have 1 million users. It's like, all right, well, I'm already paying attention.
Got it. So out of like, let's imagine somebody gets an introduction with you and they're already on the call, right? And let's imagine that they have 1 million users. What are the other like top 3 criteria that you look into? Like what actually gets you excited? Like, you've mentioned some that, of course, product market fit. Of course, you mentioned that like it should be something that will have a very clear distribution network and like the business acumen. Are there any other like tips that you might, provide to a founder to be focusing on?
It's incredibly basic, but again, we're going back to the basics. So the idea of a company, especially in Web3, that understands that they need to create a product that not only is useful, but that is so useful that people will pay money for it. That's really it. I mean, that's the crux of product market fit. Have you built something that people actually pay money for? I think too many times in crypto, and especially, Web3 founders, it's too much a bit of this left-hand, right-hand game where you're building, a crypto solution for a crypto audience. And while that might be good for like a token pump, or that might be good for a short-term narrative, I can't tell you how many of these types of companies that were hyped up, in the 2017-18 bull run or the 2021 bull run, how many of these are just dead? You'll never hear from them again, because they were really, companies with a very transient sense and a transient understanding of, what that product market fit is. I think every founder in Web3's aspiration should be to build a product that can appeal to a non-crypto audience, because that's where the real total addressable market, the TAM, is. It's not inside of crypto. Crypto is a tiny, tiny, homogenous bubble of money and opinion that really has very little relationship to the larger world. And for crypto to really get to, 10, 20, 30, 50 times, 50x where it is now, it necessarily must appeal and sell to a mainstream audience. Now, if your infrastructure, maybe it's slightly different, but even things like DeFi, if your DeFi solution doesn't have a sense of how it can actually be used by a normal non-crypto person, then I'm not really sure what your 10-year path is. Like, what exactly are you hoping for? What exactly are you hoping is going to happen in the next 10 years that can really, make you a significant and meaningful business of substance? That, awareness and that kind of, I would say, humility of our industry, understanding that, yes, we're probably, some of us are quite successful and wealthy in terms of in token terms, but really being wealthy in terms of relevance and usefulness and utility to mainstream. I think that's really what we should aspire to.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Like, I 100% agree with you. You mentioned like Ton ecosystem. I'm a big supporter. I've actually heard your speech at Ton Gateway in Dubai, right? It was I would say a great combination of critical thinking and a substantiated criticism towards, like, the ecosystem, and exciting opportunity what can be done, the seeking of the solution, right? So maybe if you'd be so kind to summarize, like, the idea that you delivered at Ton Gateway, like, what are the biggest challenges that you see at Ton Foundation and overall in the community, and what are the solutions, how it can become, like, even bigger?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Ton is incredible. And I think, as I said in the talk, I love Ton, and because I love Ton, I show my love language is constructive, honest criticism. That's what I think, is necessary. And with that in mind, I think that the Ton ecosystem and everyone, including myself, its investors, its builders, its management, we have to really understand that we're lucky. We're fortunate to have, Telegram as this, audience that's just there for us to kind of convert. But that's not that's the beginning. That's not the end. And what's really needed for the Ton ecosystem to be on par with an ecosystem like Ethereum, like Solana, like some of the others that are out there, is a maturation. It's, again, a humility to understand that we need to keep scrapping, we need to keep fighting, we need to keep improving. We can't sit on our laurels of, hey, we have 300 million users on this, kind of tap game. That's at best an anomaly, and at worst a false sense of security about how rich the ecosystem is. We have to be able to have very honest conversations about how many real users there are in these 9-figure kind of reported user bases, and how do we improve the quality, constantly improve the quality and verify the quality of these audiences, so that when people from the outside come in, whether they're advertisers, whether they're kind of top shelf DeFi platforms, they don't have questions about, well, how many users am I really getting? Is it 10% of that 300 million? Is it 5%? Is it 20%? I think that comes along with this idea of transparency and real understanding of what these numbers mean. I also think that from a kind of direction and leadership standpoint, we have to understand some of the kind of lessons of existing protocols like Solana, like Ethereum, meaning that clear leadership in terms of a face. It's kind of very simple, but every one of the slide I had was, you can't spell culture without cult, and cults of personality are very, very common and almost necessary for retail token kind of adoption. People like to follow people, and that's how it works in crypto, for better or for worse. And I think having like that kind of clear personality who's out there and always pumping and shilling and evangelizing and rallying, that's really important. And I think that that's one of the things that is can be improved in the ecosystem. There's many other things that I think are important in kind of growing Ton to be, where I think it can be. And I think that they're doing a great job. But as an investor and, as a lover of Ton, it's my responsibility to try and point out the gaps, and try to, invest and support every effort to kind of fill those gaps. I do hope that the ecosystem can become more open and international and global. I think right now it is very kind of focused on the CIS, which makes sense because of its roots. But I do also think that, especially in the US, there's, I'm not going to say a bias, but I would say that an ignorance of Telegram, outside of crypto. A lot of people in the West don't really use Telegram.
Yes.
And that is a culture which needs to change, which means that, things like marketing, drafting and piggybacking off of Telegram marketing would be great. Telegram doesn't market at all. It doesn't market itself. It's known for, in the West, as probably being a place where crypto people and criminals gather. And that's not great. And it's to the point now that the thing that most people know about Telegram is that its leader was arrested.
Yes.
So
Well,
there's kind of
also there
cons.
was some SEC lawsuit in 2020, which led, like, for
Absolutely.
few sophisticated investors, obviously that was very challenging, right? And that therefore, I think that also paused a little bit, like overall interest from the West. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I think these are some of the things that need to be done in order to really, boost Ton's space. And then finally, again, we just need to solve real problems. And this isn't a lesson for Ton, this is a lesson for all of Web3. Again, let's not solve crypto problems for crypto people. Let's solve, real problems for real people with crypto. That's the ultimate test of real relevance. And, Ton is the only ecosystem that, can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Mm-hmm.
We have an incredibly, unique opportunity with the Telegram audience to actually deliver and test and deploy solutions for people that solve real problems. It would be incredibly hard for other ecosystems to have that, accessibility of real users at their fingertips. And I think in Ton we can't take it for granted. We need to actually think hard and be more critical about the applications that will define the first generation of real Ton apps.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Actually, while speaking with some of the devs, I've also understood that the architecture, like some of the people who want to use it, like with master chain and shard chains, it's a little bit challenging, and like the complexity, like, slows down the onboarding of other people who want to join. So I think the one of the keys to develop, the very comprehensive documentation and, like, libraries to actually make it exciting for people to get joined, maybe provide more grants, like, and they're on the path right now. Like, I was a very good start. I think it's only in the beginning of its path, right? And there's a lot of, like, things to improve. But what I liked about your speech, that you also you mentioned that, like, it's good to take examples, so let's say from Solana or from other ecosystem, right? So if you were to give them, like, a very open, direct recommendation, imagine you're talking to Pavel and he's like, okay, Jehan, I'm listening to you. I will do whatever you tell me. Tell me the top three things that I will implement them tomorrow. What would it be?
I mean, that's a lot of pressure. But I'll give it a shot. I think that there is I think a lot of the kind of the team, especially that was responsible for the birth of Ton, is an incredibly talented, product-oriented, executing team. I think that their background comes from Web2, and those types of lessons have been invaluable to really make product that is quite useful and intuitive. And I think that they've done an incredible job of that, especially integrating it into Telegram. I think that the ethos of Web3 is something which, you need to spend a lot of time in order to kind of really grasp and kind of get comfortable with and be aligned with. And I think that TON as an organization and as a movement really can benefit from really examining and studying the history of Web3 projects
Mhm.
like Ethereum, which I think is one of the best reference cases for how to kind of grow an ecosystem steadily. I think Solana is a great reference case for how to maintain a strong audience and really appeal to things like financial institutions and build a very polished and professional and kind of almost blue chip brand. I think that being more Web3 native, and it seems kind of ironic to say that because it is a Web3 protocol, but culturally being more Web3 native is probably the
Mhm.
biggest lesson that I think the TON ecosystem can benefit from, because at least in the short term, the audience is Web3. Obviously, they have to kind of, as I said, build for mainstream and solve real people's problems. But at least in the first year or two, I think to attract devs, to attract investment, to attract partners from outside of the TON ecosystem in to come in and convince them that this is a viable ecosystem beyond the kind of Telegram numbers. That's really what needs to be done, and you need to speak, you need to speak Web3 crypto in order to do that, and you need to speak to the ideas and the ideals of these communities. So that would be the first one.
Beautiful. I mean, I think one is enough already. Like if they do that like properly, that's going to be huge for them. Slowly get into the Worldcoin. You mentioned that you met Sam Altman personally. I've seen the posts and it was really impressive. First of all, in a good way, I envy you because he's a brilliant mind. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. WorldCoin idea is a global digital identity, which is really ambitious plan, right? There is a lot of also pushback on the privacy and data, the security concerns, right? As you
Sure.
know, for someone who's listening for the first time, like about like what is WorldCoin, Europe, and many places. By the way, in Hong Kong as well. They started investigations of like their practices of the data collection practices. I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's just like they try to understand better what's happening. So my question to you, what do you think is the future of WorldCoin, right? Of course, there's a beautiful application, and this is one of the also like really something that can get massive adoption. And it's already happening. By the way, I was one of the first million people who I would say
Oh, you got scanned?
yeah, I got scanned, right? So
Amazing.
yeah, I was in the office of A16Z. That was a presentation of the product. It was actually what 2 years ago, right? So it was very early, right? So
Wow. Good for
yeah,
you.
I was very lucky, but I also, to be frank with you, when I was approaching this orb, I had like some reservations. Like, do I
Totally.
need to provide my iris like or not? So maybe explain us from an investor perspective. How do you see is gonna like develop?
Sure. So I'll start from the very beginning, actually. What is WorldCoin and why did we invest?
Mhm.
First and foremost, it's a founder bet. I mean, even back in 2021, I think it was when 2021, 2022 is when we invested. But I was chasing this investment for about 6 months before we actually invested. First and foremost, it was a founder bet. I mean, just betting on Sam Altman is just is a pretty safe bet.
Yes.
It's like betting on Elon back in kind of 2010. He's done enough that you can see the ambition, or maybe 2015 or something like that. But he's doing something new. So I think that was just the very basic logic, which was the green light to invest. Now, I really liked the thesis that they had, which is Bitcoin, and this is again 4 years ago, 3 4 years ago. The idea was that Bitcoin is a failure in a sense, not from a technology standpoint, but from the standpoint that not enough people have it.
Mhm.
And I would say, from an adoption standpoint, Bitcoin is a failure. I mean, it's maybe tens of millions of people in a world of billions. That level of adoption is too small for something as kind of ambitious and powerful as like a global store of value, or back then it was supposed to be a currency, right? And so their thesis was, all of these, Bitcoin and all these coins are trying to establish a utility thesis first and then drive adoption. If you have something useful, try to get people to use it. Whereas this flipped it on its head and said, let's just get the token in the hands of as many people as possible, and then they can figure out what to do with it. It was such a contrarian kind of like, backwards, absurd type of thesis. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. What happens if you actually do adoption first and then develop utility? And that's the whole premise of it. I just thought that was super, kind of, elegant in its reversal. And that's, why I kind of really enjoyed this idea. Also, identity, Worldcoin is an identity protocol. Solving identity is solving one of crypto and Web3's holy grails. There are a few holy grails in crypto. One is identity, like who are you on the blockchain? Two is location. Where are you in terms of, secured by the blockchain, like a GPS, basically. Payments is a holy grail. And any company that can successfully crack one of these is bound to be, one of the great, most significant, most meaningful, impactful companies in the world, not just in crypto. And to be fair, nobody's cracked location. And until now, nobody's really cracked identity either. But I think that Worldcoin world has the ability to kind of do that. And it's pretty exciting how they've done it. It's just incredible technology, top shelf Silicon Valley kind of minds and builders. When you have Sam Altman on the masthead, you can attract top tier talent. And I think that's what they've done. And I think that their DNA really is, more towards the Silicon Valley side and less towards the crypto side, for the better. And that's just kind of the table stakes. Now, what I took away from the conference was they're building a super app. And I never really I kind of knew that they were doing it, but until I actually saw it, it didn't actually register how powerful this can be when you have, millions of people that are receiving your kind of your airdrop, onboarding them as verified humans, valuable verified humans, and then you're building apps on top of that substrate. So I think that's incredibly powerful. And in the same way that, Ton building apps for the Telegram user base is powerful, I actually think this is probably one of the only other Web3 projects that can approach, like reasonably and credibly approach a type of super app adoption strategy. So we'll see. I think that, they're removing you no longer need to get your eyes scanned. You can just attach your kind of NFC passport. That's another level of verification. I think that they've really opened it up, and the early, the kind of early stumbles that they had of, I think, being too cold, being too kind of creepy, like the form factor is kind of creepy. Like you have to stare into this form and it sucks out your soul. Like that's helpful for people's understanding. But you know what they said, actually, they understood that this was, going to be one of the issues, but the orb, the physicality of the orb is part of the brand, for better or for worse. It's like that old adage, no such thing as bad press. It got people talking about it. And for the most part, it was kind of like people being quite wary or skeptical of it, but it got them talking about it. It put them on the map. And now what they're doing is they're expanding to many other types of verification systems, everything from, facial to, all this, the whole kind of field of integrations. And also what they're doing is they're opening up to different types, more like a mesh of identity that's anchored by a Worldcoin ID, but one which can incorporate different levels of privacy. Now, it's also very kind of not widely known that, Worldcoin is actually more private than probably 99% of the apps on your phone. In addition to being open source, their hardware and their software, they have a real commitment to privacy. It's not really well known. It's kind of ironic. But I think they need to kind of drive that message a bit further, because I think people just assume that it's the opposite. But
100%.
they are the counterpoint to Apple. So it's great. I mean, I'm really blown away by World, and we've doubled down our kind of commitment and our thinking towards both investing in the coin as well as apps that are built on top.
Yeah, they now have what about 892 active orbs, about 7.4 million people who are already like unique humans, as they call them, right? And you're right. Before, like when I was doing it, like the first, I would say, subjective impression was like, am I ready to provide my biometric data to a company or to a personality, right? So, and as you mentioned, now I think they should do a better job explaining it. It's actually more secure than we think, right? So.
Yeah.
And once they will do that, like I'm 100% agree, like with you, that actually that might be a new standard how people will interact, and that will drop a huge adoption. Um, Incredible outlook on the Worldcoin, and then like you mentioned the mythical games, right? So that's another like huge, mythical games were like I would say one of the most impressive projects in the previous cycle, I would say, like, and the fact that how they developed it, like, how many like people from a gaming ecosystem revere them, and actually this is one of the like good examples actually of the project. So tell us a little bit about their mythos, about like, what is there to expect from them, right? Because I'm sure you have some of the insights that we might not find, just from the online information.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know in the audience, I mean, Mythical Games is literally one of the most exciting kind of Web3 gaming platforms out there. Their their venture backed. Their last round was led by A16Z at a billion plus. This is a few years ago. That's actually the round that we invested in because we were super excited about their token. And earlier this year, or late last year, we kind of got an update from them, and they told us all the great things that they were doing and how their game NFL Rivals was really one of the top games in Web3. But most of the people playing it didn't know that it was a Web3 game, and that was music to our ears. They have over 6 million users, and they have a partnership with one of the top football teams in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they've really, kind of done what everybody wants to do and says they're going to do, which is build a AAA game with AAA IP, and actually get it out to users without, shoving crypto down their throat. That's what they've done. And now the challenge is how do they actually, you know, how do they actually realign their token, their community, and actually become a little bit more crypto native? I think they suffer a little bit of the same issues that they
Yes.
know the traditional business so well, and they've done so well doing it, but they also need to appeal to the crypto audience because at the end of the day, they have a token, the Mythos token, MYTH, and they need to, kind of abide by the laws of physics, of crypto physics. They need to be on the right exchanges. They need to have the right amount of like liquidity. They need to have the right types of incentives. They need to have the right types of token economics that accrue value to the token based on the fundamental gameplay and activities of regular users.
Mhm.
So all of that is what we at Kenetic have been helping them, do. We've come on as advisors in addition to our investment. We've continued to invest this year and continue to build our position in Myth Token. We're super excited about, some of the announcements that they've made. So they recently announced that they're doing Pudgy Party, which is the official game for Pudgy Penguins. Pudgy Penguins has been, on a tear, getting out into Walmart and all these kind of, IRL types of, extensions. Um, and, similar to NFL Rivals, I think in the next, couple, weeks or months, we're going to hear some incredible news, and announcement from Mythical Games, about additional partnerships that extend the, X Rivals kind of franchise into other sports, some of the largest sports in the world. And I think that it's going to really change the way people think, not just about Mythical, but about Web3 gaming, what's possible, and where it will go. So I think that we're in for a really, really exciting Q4 for Mythical Games, and that's why we've been investing. I just like to see, again, like fundamentally useful and appealing. And it goes back to the thing, like make something that real money, that real people will pay real money for. And that's what you see with Mythical. And now we just need to kind of, reverse engineer it into the crypto space to make sure that all that good crypto goodness, and trading and retail interest and value accrual and token economics really kind of flows back into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm 100% agreeing with you. Like I've seen their products like Blancos, Rivals, and many others. And I know there were like some criticism towards like the fact that, they struggle to attract and retain like, the user base and that it's like during the bear market, it was highly volatile. So hence like, they had to, probably downsize a little bit from the workforce. But then
Sure.
to my like understanding, like it's a very general trend in our industry overall, like that you cannot just like unfortunately skip the cycles. There is a incredible amount of excitement during the bull run, and then there is like the activity goes down, especially in gaming, like tremendously during the bear market. So as you mentioned, when the game is exciting and people are playing it like irrespective of the speculation, right? That's the key, right? That's something that's going to help like entire industry to shape the narrative, like and showcase it.
Absolutely.
We're coming from a different perspective, right? So and that just takes time. We haven't seen like the real AAA game that was like super exciting, which is coming by the way soon, right? I'm sure. Like I'm a big fan of Gonzilla. Like early backer, and I'm like really bullish on them.
Amazing.
And so eventually we'll see a lot of like opportunities there. Coming to like some of the other like trends and I would say predictions. I know you hate the predictions part, but like let's talk about a little bit about it. Like what do you foresee in 2025, right? We've just had very positive, I would say, news for the crypto industry about US elections, irrespective of how do you foresee like, figures of Republican Party or anything, but like we've seen how the market reacted. It's very positive in the stock market for crypto. We have a very practical suggestion, a law, essentially from Senator Cynthia Lummis to introduce like the to include Bitcoin as a strategic Bitcoin reserve, like and that can bring it to 100K immediately, right? So what are the other things beyond the speculation that you see that we will kind of explore maybe in 2025?
Yeah. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'll pretend. I think that it's. I think that we will see a lot of the kind of breaks that have been kind of hampering growth and hampering development and adoption be taken off. I think that we will see extremely pro crypto. We're gonna see the first wave of a pro crypto government in the U.S. For better and for worse. I think that it will be a very loose regulatory environment, and I think that we'll have the room to run, and that will be good. I think that will be good for the industry. I think it will lead to a bloom of both investment and experimentation and development, and I also think that it will lead to adoption, both from enterprise where they don't have to fear kind of regulatory overhang as much as they have had to for the past 8 years or so. I think they can safely do that. I also think that will have the net effect, a knock-on effect, internationally and globally, because obviously if Trump does make it a strategic reserve asset, that is going to be a forcing function for every other top 20 country to do the same thing. And I think that will also pull up a lot of the alts, because at least traditionally, as goes Bitcoin, so goes alts, in terms of like market and price. At the same time, I think that it will still be an uphill battle to make sure that it'll be even more imperative that crypto companies and crypto applications and founders achieve not just kind of token price success, but utility and relevance. Because one of the common complaints was, well, the regulators do this, we can't do this, banks are shutting us down, da da da. Fair, that's all true. But if all of that goes away, then there's no excuse. Like this has to be the cycle where crypto actually proves that it's useful and that people want to pay money for this, for the better, faster, cheaper,
Mhm.
services that crypto can enable. And if we can't do that in this cycle, then we really have to question, what are we doing here? Because we won't be able to, say, well, it's the regulators, because it's no longer that. So we
Mhm.
have a 4-year window to really, kind of realize all of the hopes, dreams, promises, and aspirations of Web3. Otherwise, we really need to consider whether or not, this is actually something that is needed.
Wow, that's harsh, but I love it. I think it's also very honest, right? So, um,
That's my brand.
But yeah, it's true. I mean, you're right. We have the window of opportunity, and this is the time for execution, right? For sure. Look, I really appreciate your expertise on a professional level, but I also want to to conclude. I want to delve into your personal life a little bit. Like, I want to ask you, in my opinion, the most important question that I ask every guest, and I never notify them because that comes from the heart. That's much better. Uh,
Please.
so, so Jihan, what's the meaning of life to you?
I think to be of service to others. I think to try and help. I mean, I think that's, something that I grew up with, coming from I was raised as a Unitarian. I went to a Quaker boarding school, and all of these, you know, formative years, thinking about and kind of being a part of a community, and really being of service to others made a big impression on me. Um, and I think that, at least for the meaning of my life, I hope, and I certainly haven't achieved it, um, but I would like to at some point in my life, is to really just, yeah, be an instrument of service to others, wherever that might lead, whether it's in welfare, whether that's in, kind of social causes, whether that's in health causes, whether that's just in, being somebody who's there for somebody else when they need it. I think that's really, really important and meaningful. And I think that, you know, once you've gotten to a certain level of, success, um, you stop counting zeros and you start, counting moments, that are meaningful, where you can connect. And I think especially in the age of AI, where speed, and, kind of productivity, uh, and agency, will be ramped up to the nth degree. I think the real precious, resource will not be money, will not be data. It will actually be connection and human connection. And I think that's probably one of the, going forward, one of the most important lessons that we'll need to actually, instill in children who will grow up, natively disconnected from people. I think this will be the first generation, who won't actually rely 100% on other people. They'll be much more reliant on bots and agents, and networks and data and feeds and oracles and, all of that. I think we'll probably need to prioritize and really, even as a society, relearn how to connect. Because for sure, as we've seen in, the most recent elections, like disconnection and, is probably at an all-time high.
Wow, that's profound. I really appreciate that. Maybe as a one piece of last advice from Jihan is like, what would be the number one book that if you were to let's say advise to the next generation, what would be the one book that you would like recommend?
It's not a book. I'm gonna take your question and kind of, redirect it a little bit.
Please do.
Rather than a book, I would say an experience. Can I do that?
Sure.
Right. I think that, for the next generation, I was actually just having this conversation yesterday. I really encourage people to look into this meditation practice called Vipassana, which has been formative in my life. I did it when I was, in my early 20s, and it was like 20 years ago. And it is one of the most, I would say, impactful things that you can experience in your life, which is non-traumatic. Usually, when you have a life-changing experience, it's because too often it's because somebody got hurt or somebody died. And this is one of those things that will absolutely change and expand for the better, one's understanding of like mind-body relationship and, the root of things like anxiety and stress and, kind of negative stress-filled feelings. And if you go through it, as I did at an early age, it has a compounding effect on the rest of your life. And I have no doubt that whatever success I've been able to achieve has been probably about 40% due to my ability to like stay mindful, stay aware in all types of situations, highs, lows. I mean, when you go through bull markets and bear markets, like we were seed investors in, FTT, the FTX's token. We were seed investors in Terra. We were seed investors in BlockFi, and we were seed investors in Solana and all these other things. Like these highs and lows will always come and go, and to have a rudder which can help guide me emotionally and mindfully through like Vipassana, just like it's simple, it's like a breathing practice. That's all it is. It's not even a religion, it's just a breathing practice that has been game changing.
How many days have you done it?
It's a 10-day silent retreat. Like you have to do the 10 days and it's incredibly hard. It's excruciating for the first 3 days. And then it gets easier. And then it's like, once you have that muscle, you know how to use it. Doesn't mean I use it all the time. I wish I used it more, but I use the breathing practice on a daily basis. And it has absolutely gotten me out of jam after jam after jam.
And have you done it like in a temple or somewhere outside the country?
I did it in a center. There's centers all around the world. I happened to do mine in Massachusetts. That happened to be what was available at the time. It's always packed and full, so you have to sign up well in advance. It's a big commitment, and everybody says two things. Oh, I can never find 10 days, and it's true. You can't find 10 days. You have to make 10 days. You have to make time for 10 days. And the other thing people say is like, oh, I could never go through 10 days of silence. And trust me, like there are hundreds of thousands of people who have done it. If hundreds of thousands, probably millions at this point, because it's been around for such a long time. If millions of people can do it, you can do it. It's hard, but if average people off the street can like sit in silence for 10 days and figure out a way to get through it, like you can too. And that's the challenge. That's the benefit. People are like, oh, let's go do like ice plunges and da, da, da. It's like, all right, ice plunges is cool, but have you done Vipassana?
Yeah, no, it's an incredible exercise of self-reflection, introspection, and self-discovery, if I were to summarize it. And I highly recommend. It's true that for a particular type of temperament, like of people like who are like would say they're not comfortable of being alone, that is actually even more important, right? It's like prescribed to stay with yourself and discover who you truly are, what do you want, and yeah, it's really interesting that you mentioned that. I love this practice, and I want to do it again, by the way. But
Same.
it's also very challenging. Like you're right, 10 days,
So
especially.
hard.
It's like, but I agree with you. That's another beautiful summary that you have to make it. You have to make a conscious decision that this is going to be 10 days where I dedicate to my mental growth, my spiritual growth, and the ROI on this, as you mentioned, 40% of your success comes from here. Like how else can you measure it? It's super important, right? So really appreciate you sharing with us, John. Like, really hope that we're gonna do another one soon. And I sincerely wish you luck and find many unicorns. Not only find, I know that you're kind of people who would actually help to create the unicorns, to shape them. Like, and that's the beauty. Like, and even though you're saying your family office, not a hedge fund, I should attest that you're one of the most like hands-on investors in the industry and who can provide like a lot of resources. And if you really believe in the founder, you would go sit in them and provide them tough love, but with constructive, like, intention, So,
Tough love is still love.
exactly. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I hope you can do it more.
Thank you so much, Constantine. This is a great interview. I really appreciate your questions. It's such a fun time. Thank you.
Thank you.